Welcome to the Ronni Resonance Podcast, a space for women in transition, becoming, and rebirth. I'm Ronni, an intuitive guide, mentor, and multi-dimensional human learning right alongside you. Here we explore identity shifts, intuition, alignment, purpose, and the deeper truths you've been feeling but maybe haven't said out loud yet. This is where you return to yourself, gently, honestly, and with resonance. Take a breath. You're exactly where you're meant to be. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ronni Resonance Podcast. Oh my gosh, this is actually my very first live podcast. So I just want to say I am just super grateful that you're here with me today. You chose to spend your time with me. I just so appreciate it. But before we get started, I just want to say like a quick note on how this is going to flow. Everybody joining will be muted and cameras will be off just to keep the space focused and really easy to move through so that things aren't chaotic. So you can absolutely use the chat throughout. I'll be checking it as we go, and I'm going to be doing my best to respond in just real time so that it can feel really interactive without needing to wait until the very end for like a Q&A or whatever. So if you have something to share, something you want to ask, I just ask that you be intentional with it. So if something resonates, you can just say you agree or whatever. You don't need to send multiple messages and spam the chat. So I'm going to get to your questions as I can while we're moving through the conversation. So let's get started. So have you ever started setting these boundaries with people and people just started acting differently? I just feel like this is one of the things that not a lot of people, no one prepares you, I guess, for that, because we think that the hard part is about saying no, but what actually catches people off guard is how others respond when you say no. And people who were used to having access to you really start questioning you. Like the people who are benefited from your flexibility, they really start maybe pushing back. And sometimes people who are or were comfortable with this version of you who didn't have boundaries, they just don't know how to interact with the version of you who does have boundaries, which I definitely know can feel very confusing because you're sitting here thinking, I'm doing something good for myself. So why does this feel so uncomfortable? But what's actually happening is that you're not just changing your behavior. You're changing the dynamic of that relationship. And not everyone is going to adjust to that very easily, especially if the old dynamic worked in their favor. So when you set a boundary or start setting boundaries, you're not creating a problem. You're actually revealing a dynamic that was already happening between you and this person. So the tension didn't start when you said no. That tension was most likely already present in that relationship, which could probably be the reason why it was so hard to say no, because maybe you're scared of the reaction or whatever. So I think a lot of the time people lack boundaries just to maintain the comfortability of the dynamic or that relationship. And saying yes is always going to keep things really smooth on the surface, but it may not have been necessarily aligned underneath, like how you really feel on the inside. So when that starts to change, it begins to unearth, like bring that stuff to the surface. So boundaries expose these patterns in relationships who expect access to you, the flexibility with you, or you just always are trying to accommodate. And most people aren't reacting to the boundary itself. They're reacting to the change because they are used to that version of you. That version, would usually, without boundaries, would say yes, you're always available. You're always adapting to other people. And you are basically honoring other people than honoring your own self and your own needs. So when that shifts, it disrupts what feels normal to them. But different doesn't necessarily mean wrong. I really feel like that's necessary to say because I think a lot of people feel like that. Really, what that means when the shift happens, it just means that this is an unfamiliarity thing because they respond to what they've experienced consistently from you. So if you've always been one way, a change is going to stand out immediately to these people. When people push back, it's really easy to internalize that. You might start thinking that you're questioning yourself, really, if did I say it wrong? Was I too harsh? Should I explain myself or explain more or better? But most of the time, the reaction has more to do with what that person is losing in that relationship dynamic. They are most likely going to be losing this access to you, the predictability of your normal behaviors. They lose, it's almost like a loss of control of the dynamic because it's like they think they have their finger on you. And your boundary really removes something that they were used to. So it's not always about how you said the boundary or expressed it. It's really about what changed for them in that dynamic. So just to relate this to my own experience, I've had this so many different times, but there's been multiple times, but a main time in my life where I really started setting clear boundaries. Like I became more intentional with my time and energy, and the response really shifted. These behaviors changed, the dynamic changed. And for a moment, I did question myself. But what I had to realize was this wasn't about me doing something wrong. It was about the dynamic no longer functioning the way this person or people are used to. So it's understandably, boundaries they don't just affect you. They affect how other people relate to you because you're not just changing what you do, you're changing who you are within the dynamic. You're becoming someone who holds boundaries. And at the same time, relationships are adjusting to that version of you. This will always create discomfort with people for the most part. Because I think if you have to set boundaries with someone, they're probably someone who kind of doesn't respect you in some way, or maybe they do. And again, like they're just kind of confused by why things are different because you were one way and now you're doing things differently. But it really can feel like tension, confusion, emotional resistance. So I think this is mostly because I think two things are shifting at one time. Your identity is shifting because you're choosing to be like, okay, I'm going to set these boundaries now. And in turn, that shifts your relationships because like I said, they're seeing you differently. So you're changing on the inside, but everything on the outside also is starting to change as well because that's alignment. That's just how it works. When your frequency changes or your dynamics or whatever changes or how you go about things, the dynamics and the situations change. So the real question isn't how do I get people to be okay with my boundaries? It's more about what do you do when they're not? And that's what we're going to be going into deeper now. So if you are a premium or VIP member inside the Becoming Sanctuary, you can head over to the extended podcast. The link is in the podcast classroom for the extended podcast, and you can join me there live. In the extended, we're going to be getting into what this actually looks like in real life, how to handle pushback, how to hold your boundaries without over explaining, and how to stay grounded in it when people don't respond the way that you hoped. So if you're watching this on YouTube right now in this video, the extended version of this video where we go deeper is inside the Becoming Sanctuary. And that is just my private community. It's free to join. I'm going to have that linked in the description. So if you want to join and you really want to go deeper into this work, it's a great place to be. And if you want to be part of these live conversations moving forward, the public portion happens live every Tuesday at 11 a.m. And you can join that by becoming a member inside the Becoming Sanctuary. So thank you guys for being here. And I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the other extended podcast, but I will see you over there.